My husband held up a dented tin box with both hands like it might break open a decade. "Don't react," he whispered. "Wait until your mom leaves." We were in my parents' attic in Ohio, sweating in late September heat that turned insulation into glitter and regret into steam. My mom was 2 feet away, on the other side of a half wall, sorting Christmas ornaments and narrating each one like she was hosting a history show. If I'd gasped, she would have turned, collected the box, and added it to the pile of things to go through later, which in my family meant never. I used to think I knew the story of my life. The attic said otherwise. I'm Rachel Kim, 32, high school counselor in Columbus, middle child of Steve and Ellen Kim, older sister to Evan, younger to Abby. My parents are downsizing from the Cape Cod we grew up in, a 5-mile radius of Little League fields, school band concerts, and the same Kroger where the cashiers know which cereal we buy in December and why. My relationship with my mom has always felt like a tug on a sweater. Connected, warm, and occasionally pulling loose in the places you wish it wouldn't. She is generous when it's about casseroles and quiet when it's about apologies. We love each other. We also carry around a story we never really agreed on. Mine goes like this. There used to be a college fund with my name on it. There used to be talk about we're putting a little away each month. Then one spring during my senior year, we discovered there wasn't. The explanation arrived like an afterthought. Things were tight after Dad's layoff. Evan needed help after a fender bender. The furnace died. The timing hurt like a wire you only notice when it snaps. I took out loans and got a part-time job. We never sat down and put a name to the loss. I filed it under how families are. My husband, Caleb, knows all of this. He is a social worker and the calmest person in any room, including this attic, where my mother had just told him, in her voice that splits kindness and control down the middle, "Be careful with those boxes, sweetheart. Some things are priceless." He looked at me over the tin box and did the tiniest shake of his head. "Wait, anybody want lemonade?" Mom called. "I'm going down for a minute." We heard her feet on the narrow stairs, her cheerful commentary, drifting back up the way a scent does. "Remind me to keep the angel tree topper. Oh, and your father's old train." Dad, below us, answered like he always does, low, practical, the sound of a man who fixes sink gaskets and feelings in the same quiet way. Caleb pressed the tin into my palms. It was surprisingly heavy, the lid stained with a ring where a mug must have sat during some long conversation. On top, a strip of masking tape, faded, my mother's careful handwriting. "For after, if you need to know." "After what?" I breathed. "Let's go to the back dormer," Caleb said, scanning the stairs for shadows. We squeezed between boxes, labeled Rachel's Books and Taxes 1998-2004, and sat cross-legged on plywood, sunlight making a square on the floor. I slid my thumb under the lid and eased it open. Inside, an old Polaroid, 2 hospital bracelets, a folded paper bag, a spiral notebook the size of my hand, and a stack of envelopes tied with a ribbon that used to be red. Inside the tin were answers, not excuses, not alibis. Answers. The Polaroid was of a baby in a hospital crib with hair like black dandelion seeds and a tube taped gently to her cheek. The name card clipped to the plastic rail read, Rachel Kim, 14 months. Someone, my mother, had drawn a heart on the back around the date. The hospital bracelets were little and long, the kind that make your wrists ache in sympathy. One said Kim, Ellen. The other said Kim, Rachel, patient. The paper bag, brittle, held a lock of hair tied with thread the color of wheat. I reached for the spiral notebook and opened to the first page. It was my mom's handwriting again, tidy, deliberate, a little left tilted. June 14, 12:07 p.m. She went under. Dr. Patel says routine, but nothing feels routine about watching your baby sleep with strangers in the room. I am writing so I don't come apart. I read. Caleb read over my shoulder. We learned at the same time that there had been a surgery I didn't remember. A small vascular malformation near my temporal lobe that had bled once when I was a toddler. The kind of medical sentence that looks like order until someone says, risk of seizure, and then the room changes temperature. There were notes about nights on a pull-out chair, about Dad bringing coffee in a thermos, about Grandma sitting at the bedside telling me Bible stories in Korean that I didn't follow, but loved the sound of. There were hospital bill numbers in the margins, dates with arrows, insurance denies, appeal. Pre-auth came through. Dr. Patel wrote letter. My pulse thudded in my throat. Why didn't she tell me? The words came out flat. My mother had explained my faint scar behind my ear once as a fall. I had been a kid. I had believed her. As an adult, I had noticed headaches sometimes in winter and thought, we are all mysteries to ourselves. Caleb didn't answer. He let me read. By page 2, the notes shifted from fear to logistics. There was a list titled Things We Sold, and another list, People Who Cooked for Us. Underlined, Steve's buddy at the shop fixed the van for free. Circled, Apply for financial assistance, pride is expensive. I untied the ribbon around the envelopes. The first one was addressed in my mother's handwriting, to future Rachel. On the flap, open when you want the whole story. I looked at the stairs. The attic was quiet. I slid my finger under the glue. Rachel, if you are reading this, I did not find the courage to sit you down at the kitchen table and say all of this with my mouth. That is my failure. You deserve better. There are so many reasons why I didn't tell you, none of them good enough to be secrets. I was afraid you would look at your life and see only debt. I wanted you to feel chosen, not costly. You are not a bill we had to pay. You are our miracle. Still, miracles come with invoices. Sometimes when you were 14 months old, you had a vascular malformation that bled. The surgery fixed it. Insurance did what insurance does. It smiled and then said no. Your father and I learned words like out-of-network and denial letter. We paid what we could. We borrowed against your college account, promising we would put it back. We meant it. Then life did that thing life does. That same spring, your father's company cut hours. Your brother needed a tutor. The roof sang a song about leaks. We kept meaning to rebuild the fund. We never caught up. I am sorry we did not tell you. I am sorrier that our silence asked you to make up your own story. You were never less than. You were never a burden. The most expensive thing we have ever bought in our lives was time with you. We would buy it again at any price. If you want more details, I saved them. The bills, the letters, my journal. If you want to be mad, I will stand here and let you be. If you want to throw this letter away, I won't know. If you want to go get ice cream and talk about everything and nothing, I am always ready for ice cream. Love, Mom, I had not realized. I was crying until a tear made the ink blur. Caleb put his palm between my shoulders, the steady presence people mistake for quiet. Hey, he said. That was all. Hey can hold a lot. Below us, the doorbell rang. Mom's voice floated up. Pizza. Dad, leave the tip on the counter. The attic suddenly felt like a stage we were going to have to step off. I used to be sure my mother had taken my future. She had given me a past. We put everything back carefully, like we were putting bones into a body. I slid the letter to the bottom because I didn't trust my face not to give something away if she glanced up here. Then I closed the tin and tucked it under a box labeled Rachel's Books, because if she found it by accident, I wanted it to be my accident. We went downstairs, and I ate 2 slices of pepperoni and laughed at a story my dad told about a clogged gutter like nothing had happened. My eyes felt puffy around the edges of the laugh. My mother kept refilling my glass and asking Caleb if he needed more napkins. I wanted to shake her and I wanted to hug her, and instead I asked if the angel tree topper had been packed, and she said, of course, and we went back up to finish. After dinner, we hugged goodbye and loaded boxes into our trunk. My mother stood in the driveway and smoothed my hair like I was still 5. Be careful driving, she said. Text when you get home. I nodded. The sky turned that pink-gray that happens the day summer gives up. In the car, I held the steering wheel and breathed through my nose. If I had known, I said, and then I didn't know what to put after that. Caleb put a hand on my knee. You can take your time between sentences, he said. What if I had been kinder? I asked. All those years with the student loans and the resentment I never named. I wore it like a jacket. What if I had taken it off sooner? You didn't have the weather report, he said. Now you do. At home, I showered long enough that the mirror gave up. Then I sat on the edge of our bed in a towel and read the rest of the notebook. Little jokes Mom made to herself in the margins, like the way she'd write, "Rachel hates the hospital blanket," "Memo, bring the yellow one," and "Steve snores in the chair. Record it for future leverage." She had drawn a tiny cake next to the date I turned 2 and wrote, "No balloons in ICU. Ask Auntie Lynn to bring one outside the window." I fell asleep with the notebook on my nightstand and woke up with my phone buzzing the way my heart had. It was a text from Mom. "Your dad says we made you take too many boxes. You can bring back the ones you don't have space for. Love you. Thanks for helping. Don't worry about the angel. She's with us." I stared at the words, "love you," like they might budge open a memory. When I was a kid, she said it when she put sandwiches in our lunch boxes. When I was a teen, she said it like a comma after "be home by 10. In the years since, it had become a ritual we performed around the weather pattern of small grudges. Now the words felt like a door I had to decide to walk through. Caleb handed me coffee. I held it with both hands. "I can't carry this alone," I said. "If I go over there and say, 'I found the box,' she'll either cry until I comfort her or laugh until I back down. I don't want either. I want something true." "What would true look like?" he asked. "Me. Telling her I'm grateful. Also me. Telling her I'm hurt she didn't tell me. Her. Not making me parent her feelings. Us. Deciding on no more. Secrets where the moral is protect the child from knowing she was expensive." He smiled into his mug. "That's a pretty specific stage direction, Ms. Counselor." "I write my own plays now," I said. We decided on neutral ground. The next day, we asked my parents to meet us at the little diner on Parsons that my dad likes because the coffee is terrible and the eggs are always exactly the same. He said yes. My mother sent 3 emojis and, "What's wrong?" I wrote back, "Nothing's wrong," which was true, and "Everything is different now," which was too. We got there first. I chose the booth under the photo of the Broad Street Bridge in winter. My mother arrived in a sweater I recognized from school concerts. She looked at my face and put both hands flat on the table like she was bracing for impact. "Before I say this," I said, "I need you to let me say it all the way." She nodded once. Dad stared at the salt shaker like it might help. "I found the tin in the attic," I said. Her hands flinched an inch off the table and landed again. For a second, I saw the panic break through, a deer hearing a twig. Then she let out a breath, and did something I don't think I've seen her do in a long time. She didn't try to steer. She waited. "I read the journal," I said. "I saw the bills. I read your letter." She closed her eyes. "Okay," she said. "Okay." "I have been angry at you for years," I continued, "about the college fund. I told myself a story that you chose Evan's extra this and Abby's that over my future. I didn't have all the information. That's on you. You kept it. And it's on me, too. I never asked. I am grateful you bought me time. I am angry you made me carry a question mark." She swallowed. "I know," she said. "I have known every time you took out your wallet at Christmas and insisted on paying for pie. I have known every time you stood up from the table early, like keeping us together was costing you money. I wanted to tell you. Every time I tried, I saw baby you with tape on your cheek, and I couldn't make the words." Dad cleared his throat. "I wanted to tell you," he said. "I should have told you. Your mother didn't want you to feel like a bill." "I don't," I said, and felt the truth land in my body like a chair set down on a safe floor. I feel loved. I also feel left out of my own story. I looked at Mom. "No more secrets that make love heavier than it has to be. Deal?" She nodded, eyes bright. "Deal." Caleb slid a manila folder across the table. "We brought something," he said, because he understands that sometimes the heart needs an object to focus on while it is busy beating. Inside was a color printout of an email confirmation. A small monthly donation to Nationwide Children's Hospital in the name of the Kims, because of Rachel. "We can't pay you back," I said. That's not how time works. But we can make sure some other parent sitting in a chair in a too-bright room gets a coffee and a social worker and a quick approval on a form they don't have the energy to read. We set it up for a year. We'll add more when we can. My mother put her hand over her mouth and then took it away like she remembered she wanted to be fully present. "Thank you," she said. 2 words in the right order. We ordered eggs. We picked at toast. We made a plan for the rest of the attic. What to keep, what to sell, which boxes could be shipped straight to Goodwill because if none of us could name what was inside, we did not need it. At the end, I asked for something else we never used to ask for. "Can you tell me about baby me?" My mom lit up like a memory might be the same thing as a camera. "You were bossy even when you didn't have words," she said. "You were our loudest song." It felt like hearing a melody I'd always hummed but never knew the name of. On the way out, Dad put his hand on my shoulder. "For what it's worth," he said, "I would have sold the house for you." "I know," I said, and meant it. The attic didn't give me a villain to defeat. It gave me a truth to live with and people to love better. After, it didn't fix everything. That's not how stories work, even the loving ones. We still had to go back to the attic and do the petty arguing over whether a lava lamp is vintage, my mother, or a fire hazard, me. We still had the bone-deep patterns that families get stitched with. Mom's habit of using cheerfulness to keep the room from noticing anything sharp. My habit of using competence to keep from feeling anything at all. But we also had a box we all knew about now, and a promise it represented. That love would not be asked to carry secrecy on its back, when truth could lighten the load. At my apartment, I took my own little lockbox out of the closet, the one with our passports and the spare key Kendra has, and tucked a copy of Mom's letter inside. Not because I wanted to hold on to pain like a souvenir, because someday, I might need to remember the exact shape of the grace we all decided to give each other and the price that had already been paid for it. Caleb and I sat on the floor with receipts spread between us, and we did the romantic thing you don't see in movies. We made a budget that included both our student loan payments and a line for things that are, as my mother wrote in her margin in 1994, more expensive than pride. We texted Evan and Abby to tell them we love them and to suggest a siblings' day that didn't revolve around any parents' to-do list. Evan sent a thumbs up and a gif of a raccoon holding a donut. Abby sent a string of hearts and, "Let's bake something." One night in late October, I lay awake and traced the tiny scar behind my ear and decided, I'm going to stop making resentment my hobby. I emailed my loan servicer to switch to a smarter plan, booked lunch with a colleague I admire, and made a little list on my phone titled Things I'd Like to Teach My Kids Someday. Item 1. Ask questions when the story doesn't feel complete. Item 2. You are not a bill. Item 3. When someone puts a box in your hands and says, wait, trust the person and the pause. A week before my parents' closing date, we threw a small farewell party in the empty house. No speeches, just pizza on paper plates and each of us walking room to room to say goodbye to who we had been there. I stood under the attic hatch and rested my palm on the frame one last time. Thank you, I said, to no one and to everyone. You're welcome, Mom said from behind me. I turned. She smiled. Not the bright one she uses when she's managing a room, the soft one that looks like a porch light. She reached up and tucked a loose strand of my hair behind my ear, the way she still does even now that we are eye to eye. You're my loudest song, she said. Later at home, I wrote Never Again on a sticky note and put it inside the front cover of a new notebook. Never again let silence do a job conversation is better at. Never again assume the worst of the people who would sell their house for you. Never again forget you are not a burden. Attics can hold clutter, or they can hold truths. The trick is listening when the house finally tells you which is which. Sometimes the receipts you've been bracing to hold against someone are proof of love you didn't know how to hold for them. If you find the box that explains a story you've been carrying alone, wait for the right moment, open it with someone who loves you, and then go write a new chapter together, out loud, with the lights on.